learning outcomes. After studying this module, you shall be able to know about the significance of phishing and spoofing, the methodology of phishing and spoofing, and the detection of phishing and spoofing. Now, the introduction. From the past, the world has experienced phases of phenomenal enlightenment and development. For example, more or less few centuries ago, the Industrial Revolution has conveyed extraordinary knowledge and prospects. This revolution, systemizing common tasks, provided earlier disgraded of privileges and improvements. The computerization of printing and the introduction of mass media significantly enhanced information propagation by increasing the accessibility of consistent and credible sources of knowledge. Unfortunately, it also increased levels of criminal behavior and activity. While at one hand, computers have proven to be the resources for countless intellectual purposes, conversely, for the criminally minded individuals, it became a source of accomplishing their malfied purposes. Eliminating old-fashioned physical boundaries and perhaps more prominently, eliminating international boundaries, the Internet has immensely increased the perspective for both traditional crimes and technology-precise activities. The appearance of inconspicuousness produces the camouflage of a shield which gives the impression to repudiate probable repercussions. Cybercrime has traditionally comprehended abuses and exploitations of computer systems or computers connected to the Internet, which gives rise to underwritings and containment damage. Resembling traditional areas of criminal behavior, a variety of criminal activity, complexity, and improvement exist among computer deviants. Layabouts in both domains range from beginner to professionals. Street criminals who leave a physical trail of evidence in their wake are no different from their technological counterparts who indigenously depend on the assurance of obscurity posed by the enormity of cyberspace to secure them from detection by law enforcement. Simultaneously, individuals from both areas may obstruct detection by engaging criminal maneuvers or traditional camouflaging techniques. In actual fact, the virtuosity or tangibility of such items is the only distinction which can be identified by malicious scrutiny. Now, phishing. The word phishing originally comes from the analogy that early internet criminals used email traps to phish for passwords and financial data from sea of internet users. The use of PH in the terminology is partially vanished in the annals of time. but most expected to be associated to prevalent hackers, nomenclatures, conventions such as freaks, which traces back to early hackers who were involved in phreaking, which was the hacking of telephone systems. Phishing generally means the solicitation of information by way of email or to take individuals to false websites which are designed to look similar to the genuine one. Phishing over and over again occurs when a possible victim receives a cautionary email from an imposter which impersonates an internet service provider ISP or a merchant or a financial organization. Such messages contain solicitations for account or personal information. Generally alarming in some manner, requests are made to update or service an account or to provide additional information. Phishing is effective because such scams employ scarce strategies to encourage quick compliance with the instruction contained in that. They inform the victim that an action is compulsory to avoid interruption of service. To expedite recipient compliance, they provide a link within the email. Unfortunately, people engaging in phishing are also extremely difficult to be prosecuted as phishing sites are almost always temporary and victims are often uninformed of their vulnerability and subsequent victimization for years. Although phishing attacks show a discrepancy based on characteristics of projected targets, they may be grouped into following broad categories. The first is spoofing. Spoofing includes the spoofing of emails or websites by means of company trademarks and insigns to appear to represent a legitimate financial establishment or internet service provider. Such scams use banks and online shopping sites almost exclusively. Now, the next is Pharming. Pharming is an advanced form of phishing which redirects the connection between an IP address, which means consumer seeking legitimate site, and its target, which means legitimate site. It can be accomplished at the domain name server DNS through either cache poisoning or social engineering, or through the local machine through a Trojan which modifies the host file. This is accomplished when the link is altered so that consumers are unknowingly redirected to a mirror site. Now, the next is redirectors. Redirectors are malicious programs which redirect users' network traffic to undesired sites. According to the Anti-Phishing Working Group, application of traffic redirectors and phishing-based keyloggers is on the upsurge. They further report that the most common form of malicious code is designed to modify domain name server DNS setting or host files so that either specific or all domain name server DNS looks up and directed to a fraudulent server which replies with good. Now, the next is advance free fraud. Some individuals will enthusiastically disclose personal and financial information to strangers if they believe that a large financial bonanza will soon follow. This fraud is accomplished when an email message is sent to a victim asking the recipient for his or her assistance in claiming found money. It comes in a variety of forms and was traditionally committed by the use of postal services. Now the next is voice phishing. Messages that claimed to be from a bank communicated users to dial a phone number regarding problems with their bank accounts. Once the phone number owned by the phisher are dialed, voice prompts request users to enter their account numbers and PIN. Phishing, which means voice phishing, sometimes uses fake caller ID data to give the appearance that calls are originated from a trusted organization. Now the next is methodology of discrimination and detection of phishing. Phishing is mostly deceptive as the expenses associated with phishing scams go far beyond the coinage amount of the ultimate fraud. Costs are suffered by both the individual victim and the financial institution or lender, encompassing money or credit based on fraudulent identity. However, the loss of consumer confidence may have undulating effects which are incalculable. Victims in particular may doubt the authenticity of any unsolicited email, even those that are entirely legitimate, or may be reluctant to conduct any further business online. Such hesitations may force organizations to return to traditional methods of communication, including both mass and individual mailings. In recent years, phishing scams have become increasingly creative as consumers become more cautious. As such, citizens have been overwhelmed with communications appearing to be sent by financial institutions, high schools, and even the revenue services. Others practices may contain dissemination of viruses. Traditionally, Trojans and other forms of spyware which are delivered as executable files attached to an email. However, Trojans have become increasingly sophisticated in recent years. Phishers may also place floating windows over the address bar in web browser. Although the site appears to be legitimate, it is actually a site designed to steal personal information. Customarily, potential victims could protect themselves by identifying Uniform Resource Locators (URLs) irregularities. Though phishers have become more sophisticated and have developed JavaScript replicas that appear to be variations of the genuine Uniform Resource Locators (URLs). Another technique is the application of botnets. Due to efforts by both law enforcement and internet service providers, organizations, or individuals engaged in either spam or phishing are often forced to continuously develop new avenues for their schemes to prevent conclusions. Botnets provide a mechanism for cybercriminals to change website IP addresses again and again without affecting the domain name. This method is extremely effective as it makes it difficult for authorities to identify and confiscate them. For example, in 2008, a Russian cyber gang combined phishing and the geotorsion to steal personal information and spread financial crimeware, which they called as rock phishing. For the detection of phishing, there are some commercial available programs like some ISPs like Earthlink offer a downloadable toolbar that alters a user before the user visits a fraudulent site by comparing the URL against the toolbar's list of known fraudulent sites and by analyzing unknown sites for fraudulent maneuvers. Similarly, internet security firm Whole Security has developed software which detects fraudulent sites by analyzing web addresses and domain name registration. Microsoft's Sender's ID is a program which validates sender's server IP address. Now, next is spoofing. Spoofing involves the manipulation of messages that are exchanged between computers and known as packets. These communications are indirectly routed across different systems. Addresses attached to these messages authenticate the sender and the recipient organization respectively. Essential for the synchronization of transmissions, this also facilitates technology proficient individuals to more successfully impersonate an innocent victim, as many electronic authentication stages depend upon IP verification exclusively. As a consequence, criminals may gain access to large amounts of money simply by disguising their computers. IP spoofing may also be used to redirect internet traffic. Spoofing is generally the action of making something look like something that it is not in order to gain unauthorized access to a user's private information. The idea of spoofing originated in the 1980s, where the discovery of a security hole in the transmission control protocol (TCP). Today, spoofing exists in various forms like IP spoofing, URL, and email spoofing. All email users might have received an email requesting to update the profile information for their respective account in various financial institutions. Some of these users might know that these emails are acts of phishing and thus they are avoided or even deleted, while others might not be aware of this practice and so they navigate to a spoofed website by clicking on a link provided in the spoofed email. A spoofed website is designed to look exactly like the original website. Sometimes even the URL, title bar and status bar imitate the original website. This is referred to as a spoofed URL. A spoofed email appears to be sent from a legitimate source while in fact it is sent from someone else. Phishing and spoofing are closely related. Now, the summary. Phishing is an email or document which attempts to persuade the recipient to divulge specific information like passwords, account numbers, etc. Perhaps phishing is the most commonly recognized method of online identity theft or fraud. Spoofing is the technique of impersonation of a host on a network by exploitation of a host's IP or MAC address. Phishing is effective because such scams employ SCAR strategies to encourage quick compliance with the instruction contained in that. Pharming is an advanced form of phishing which redirects the connection between an IP address and its target. Phishing. Voice phishing sometimes uses fake caller ID data to give the appearance that calls are originated from a trusted organization. There are some commercially available programs like some ISPs like Earthlink offer a downloadable toolbar that alerts a user before the user visits a fraudulent site. The idea of spoofing originated in 1980s with the discovery of a security hole in the Transmission Control Protocol (TCP). Sometimes even the URL, title bar and status bar imitate the original website. This is referred to as a spoofed URL. Thank you.